Did your parents name you right? I believe my parents named me right. I'm one of 11 children, and my birth name is Rock, R-O-C-K. Yeah, it's true. It's my birth name. And did they actually run out of names after 11 children? No. I'm named after a great uncle Rocco. I'm number 5 of the 11. But I was thinking about nicknames and nicknames that I heard over the years as I grew and the nicknames that I thought were cool. I didn't like my nicknames when I was a kid. I was called Rocky and Bullwinkle, Rock Where's Bam Bam. In fact, my story was to my mother. I returned after 5 years old in kindergarten. I came crying to my mother after a couple of days of abuse, verbal abuse, my name. And I mentioned to my mother, Ma, I hate my name. I don't like Rock. I'm going to, from now on, use my nickname, John, my middle name, John. And my mother was cooking, and she had her towel over her shoulder, making some Italian sauce. And she says, you know, someday, Rock, you're going to love your name. And she's right. It's very unique. In fact, my name is trademarked. That's right. Rock LaManna is a trademark. So I'm pretty proud of that. Not too many people get to trademark their names. But anyway, moving on from that, the first nickname I heard was back in the 60s when I was young and I loved baseball. And I was raised in Minnesota, and we had the Minnesota Twins. I don't know when they started, but I know they were in the World Series in '65. But the Cincinnati Reds had a dude named Pete Rose. And Pete Rose disrupted Major League Baseball with his aggressiveness, his competitiveness, and his willing to win. And he was a small guy, and I consider myself small. So I was kind of looking at this guy saying, you know what, I want to be like Pete Rose, man. And the story goes, Mickey Mantle and Whitey Ford of New York Yankees during winter ball were scrimmaging spring training Cincinnati Reds. And they saw this guy, Pete Rose, run all the bases, including a walk. If he got a base on balls, he'd run to first base. He'd dive into third base. He'd steal home somehow, some way. This guy was unbelievable. And there was a comment between the guys after they lost to Cincinnati during the spring training. He says, you know, we lost to Charlie Hustle. And the nickname stuck. Charlie Hustle, Pete Rose. Well, then came along Reggie Jackson. Once again, a baseball fan. He was a dude at Oakland A's. I mean, Oakland was really good. And then he was a free agent with the New York Yankees. And during the World Series, it would go into October. So they started calling Reggie Jackson Mr. October. That was a cool name, cool nickname. And then later in football, there was Deion Sanders. And here's a dude that played 2 sports, college, Major League Baseball, NFL, and he would brand himself Prime Time. That was pretty cool. Hockey, there was Rocket Richard with the Montreal Canadiens. And his brother, smaller brother, younger brother, they called him the Pocket Rocket. So these nicknames were inspirational. I'm going, man, these dudes are dudes. And then the great George Steinbrenner, family business guy, put everything into the New York Yankees. And after he really turned that franchise around, they call him the boss. That's a cool nickname, man. And that stuck too. So why am I saying this? Well, these are all kind of inspirational. I mean, I don't idolize these guys. I just thought they were the right nicknames. Well, eventually, my father, as I mentioned, one of 11, and we really respect and honor our parents. My father's name is Carlo, and we always called him Dad. And my grandchildren and his 110 offspring all call him Papa. Now it's Grandpapa. Well, I'm 70 now, so I actually call him Dad within the family. But to him personally, I call him Chief, Commander-in-Chief. And I think he likes that. I gave him a card on Father's Day one time. It had the United States President seal on it, Commander-in-Chief. And ever since then, I salute him when I see him. And I'm proud of that because he's still got his mental alertness. He's spry, hardworking dude, lived with integrity, lived with moderation, very Catholic, 10 Commandments, my mother, my father, loyal, dedicated to my mother for 74 years until she passed. But here's what's interesting. In his mid-90s, in the 2024 campaign for president, my mother was already gone. And going back to my mother passed away in 2020, July of 2020. And guess what she wanted? She said in obituary, knowing that she was going to pass away, no diseases, it was just time. Her body gave out after 20 years of being pregnant and 74 years of living with my father and 94 years of life. She said in obituary, telling my sisters what she wanted in obituary was one thing. Make sure you put in my obituary, go Trump. That's right. And did my brothers and my sisters honor that, go Trump, in the obituary? No, not a chance. Why? They're just not that type of people. So here's the thing. Being in Florida, my father would come down during the winter months, and we would have breakfast on Thursdays, him and I, and we would just talk about life, talk about things, the chief and I. And he said, you know, Rock, this is during 2024 campaign. This is probably February, March of 2024. He said, Rock, I just want to live as long to see Trump get back in. I couldn't believe it. And when Trump was reelected, I texted him and I said, congratulations, Dad. Now he's got ambition to live to 110. Why is that? He had heard someone live to 107 in his independent living facility. So guess what? He always ups the stakes. That's my father. At 99, every day he's on a treadmill. That's right. And thank God he's surrounded by 11 children and over 100 descendants with love. So that's my stories of nicknames. So let's get to my nickname. My nickname, you heard the bad ones. I didn't like Rockhead. Where's Bullwinkle? Where's Bam Bam? All those. Later in life, I played hockey. Some of my buddies would call me Rocket Man. And when Elton John came out with Elton John came out with Rocket Man, it was one of my favorites. It's another, I think it was called Madman, the album. And my brother owned it. And it was a vinyl, of course, back in the 70s. And I would play it nice and loud, Rocket Man. And then my cousin Danny, he would see me later in life when I was in my 40s and 50s. He always called me Rocket Man. I loved it. And in fact, I named my second son Dan after him. Not because of that, it's just that we had a connection. We respected each other, appreciated each other. It was pretty cool. So that's kind of what nicknames. And now we got the Donald. We got Mega Man. Of course, Charlie Hustle, since Pete Rose passed away, it all came back. And how about Uncle Sam? You know the story about Uncle Sam, right? U.S. meat being shipped out, being stamped overseas for our soldiers and our troops. And this gentleman's name was Samuel Wilson. He would stamp the box U.S. And that's why people started calling it U.S. Sam. Sam USA, due to meat for our troops overseas. That was pretty cool. So what's your nickname? Do you like it? Was it earned? It's pretty cool, man. So keep that in mind. Names matter. I always ask people what their name is, or the child's name, and ask if it's a family name. Our family named, we know all the stories from all 11 kids, how each one of them was named, how it came about. Because overall, we ran out of names. And then my mother started naming the kids. That was pretty cool. So God bless you. Stay the course. Know your value. And I call it the Rock LaManna hustle. You can do this. You can be as successful as you want, but you got to be consistent, you got to be committed, and you got to do the right thing. So I'll talk to you soon. God bless.